think those two words describe it best: senseless and evil.
This was a proper whodunit from the start.
There's also a much darker side to digital dating.
A Tinder date turned into a cold-blooded murder because nothing says romance like planning a killing. What was supposed to be a casual hookup spiraled into violence so brutal it left investigators speechless. How does a simple swipe on an app lead to something this twisted? In a world where swiping right is supposed to lead to dinner dates and maybe a few laughs, one Tinder match ended in something far more sinister: murder. Kilburn Drive in Wigan was just like any other quiet suburban street on that cold Thursday evening in November 2022. His community, his family, his friends, everyone who knew him described Liam as a rock, a steady, reliable presence that everyone could count on. His sudden and violent death left them grappling with the question of how such a kind, generous soul could be taken in the most brutal way imaginable. They didn't just lose a father, a son, a brother. They lost a part of the fabric of their community, someone who would have never in a million years imagined that a simple Tinder date could end with him lying lifeless in a driveway, his life cruelly taken away in a violent act. In 2019, Liam matched with Rachel Falstow on Tinder, like millions of others looking for a fun night out. It seemed harmless enough: a simple dinner, some drinks, maybe even a hotel room if things went well. Just another regular date between two strangers. But what seemed like a casual encounter quickly turned into something darker. For Liam, it was nothing more than a blip. A night out that didn't mean much in the grand scheme of his life. But for Rachel, it would become something else entirely. Months later, she would claim the night wasn't as consensual as she had initially let on. But bizarrely, she never reported it to the authorities. She didn't call it rape, and life, for the most part, moved on. Yet in the back of Rachel's mind, something began to fester. Something small, seemingly insignificant, grew into a twisted narrative that would soon spiral completely out of control. 2 years after their Tinder date, Rachel found herself in a volatile relationship with Michael Hillier, a man whose reputation for violence and manipulation was anything but subtle. Hillier wasn't just any man. He was a drug dealer, known for staying under the radar, using burner phones and fake plates to make sure his tracks were always covered. But more dangerous than his criminal connections was his obsession with Rachel and the story she had shared with him about her encounter with Liam. Hillier twisted this vague narrative of a possibly bad date into something far more sinister: a mission of vengeance. In his mind, Liam needed to be punished, not just for anything he might have done, but for the idea that he had wronged Rachel in some way. Hillier, the man at the heart of this deadly duo, wasn't about to leave anything to chance. His obsession with precision was evident from the moment he got involved in the plan. By May 2022, Hillier had already started preparing. He wasn't just picking up a gun and hoping for the best. He had blank-firing guns modified to fire live rounds, because what kind of killer doesn't make sure his weapon works? He stocked up on sulfuric acid and other chemicals, all with one goal in mind: to destroy any evidence that could tie him to the crime. It wasn't just about killing Liam. It was about wiping the scene clean, making sure there was nothing left to connect him to this horrific act. By the time November 24th, 2022 rolled around, everything was in place. Hillier made his way to Wigan, blending into the quiet neighborhood under the guise of a workman. He parked his Mitsubishi Shogun in a spot where he could observe Liam's house, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The hours passed, but Hillier didn't seem to mind. His wait wasn't idle. It was part of the preparation. He wore high-visibility clothing, a headlamp, and waited for the right moment to approach. This wasn't some spur-of-the-moment decision. Hillier was rehearsing, playing out each step in his mind, making sure everything went exactly as planned. At 6:30 p.m., the moment arrived. Hillier approached Liam outside his house, and the plan went off without a hitch. A single shot, at close range, hit Liam in the face, killing him instantly. It was quick, it was brutal, and it was cold-blooded. But Hillier wasn't done. He still had to make sure there was no trace left of the crime. So, he poured sulfuric acid and soda crystals over Liam's body. The goal: destroy every last shred of forensic evidence, leaving a scene so grotesque it would confuse investigators. The murder wasn't just a killing, it was a calculated, horrifying attempt to erase all signs of his involvement. And when Hillier left the scene, he did so knowing that the chaos he left behind would make it even harder for anyone to uncover the truth. After the cold-blooded murder, Hillier and Rachel didn't exactly act like two people who had just committed a brutal crime. Instead of lying low, going underground, or even showing a shred of remorse, they decided to take a vacation. And where did they go? Jamaica. Yeah, you heard that right. Instead of panicking or hiding, they were living it up, posing for photos on the beach, sipping cocktails, and soaking up the sun, as if nothing had happened at all. To them, the murder was just another thing to check off the list, and their carefree vacation was almost like a victory lap. Back in Wigan, the police were starting to piece together the mystery of Liam's death. They focused their attention on the Mitsubishi Shogun, the same car seen near the crime scene on the night of the murder. Surveillance footage revealed that Hillier's vehicle had been parked there for hours, and it was clear the timing wasn't a coincidence. The car, with its cloned plates, was a glaring red flag. But even with these clues, the police didn't have enough to make an arrest. Then, Hillier's digital footprint started to unravel everything. Despite his efforts to cover his tracks, his use of burner phones and Rachel's online activity began to expose their every move. The couple's vacation in Jamaica, where they were acting like nothing had happened, would soon become a key part of the investigation. And while they were sipping on cocktails, investigators were closing in on them. As the weeks passed, the pressure to solve the case intensified. The community, already shaken by the brutal crime, wanted answers. Liam's family, left in pieces by his sudden and violent death, were desperate for justice. And the authorities were moving fast, following every lead, chasing down every bit of evidence, and slowly connecting the dots between Hillier, Rachel, and the murder. With each passing day, the walls were closing in on them. The couple couldn't outrun the investigation forever. By July 2023, the case reached the courtroom. The trial revealed the shocking details of the murder, just how calculated and premeditated it had been. Hillier, trying to shift the blame, admitted to manslaughter, claiming he acted out of a misguided sense of justice. But Rachel, she denied any involvement. She stuck to her story, despite the overwhelming evidence stacked against her. The prosecution, however, painted a clear picture of the murder. They showed how months of planning, manipulation, and obsession had led to Liam's death. Evidence from Rachel's searches and Hillier's criminal background left no doubt in the jury's mind about their guilt. After 6 weeks of hearings, the verdict came down. Hillier and Rachel were both found guilty of murder. On August 25, 2023, Hillier was sentenced to life with a minimum of 33 years in prison, while Rachel received a life sentence with a minimum of 30 years. For Liam's family, it was a bittersweet moment, relief that justice had been served, but knowing that it could never bring Liam back. The pain of his loss was something they would carry forever. Liam's death left a void that could never be filled. His 2 young children were left to grow up without their father, a man who was loved by so many and who had his life taken in such a brutal, senseless way. It was the horror of realizing that something so evil could come from something as innocuous as a Tinder date. In the end, the legacy of this cold-blooded crime serves as a chilling reminder of how a simple swipe could lead to so much darkness. What seemed like a harmless connection became the spark for a calculated, terrifying murder. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about obsession, manipulation, and a plan so well executed that it left everyone, including Liam's family, in disbelief.